Dark Souls Remastered is out this week, and it's definitely going to cause another round of arguments and difficulty in games and get goodism. Isn't that right, Mike Williams and Gareth Evans?
Probably. Kulkowski.
Thank you very, very much. Dark Souls and all the Soulsborne games are quite famous for, well, being pretty hard, and there's no easy mode, despite what you might have seen online by Indie Mouse or whatever. The only difficulty is what the game dictates, which is not that easy. Days Gone has had a lot of coverage. That game is out next year, and during a talk, the developers also said that they don't want a difficulty option either, because they want it to be challenging. And there's a lot of criticism that games that don't have a difficulty option are quite easy. As of late, we've seen quite a few examples. Regular games have an easy, normal, a hard, sometimes like a very hard or a new game plus. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Let's do it.
Let's start off. What do you guys play on normally? What's your default setting? Normal, easy, hard, Orphanicos?
Well, apart from the cop-out, it depends on the game. Generally normal, but if it's something that I know, if it's a series like Total War, I know what I'm doing, I played loads of them. I usually go for very hard, but that's kind of an outlier, really.
Right.
I don't often just jack up the difficulty because I think I can take it. If I know that it's going to be a better game by putting it on a harder difficulty, or if that's what everyone's saying online, for example, I'll do that. But generally, normal.
Let's start on normal and see where we go from there. I played God of War recently, and I started on normal, but then I found that maybe I could tweak it up, put on a hard difficulty, which is what I did end up having a lot more fun with it because it felt more rewarding tweaking it up. But that was only having played it a little bit. I wouldn't go in on hard difficulty. So
it seems to be like quite an unusual turn of events when people start a game they've never played, the series they've never played, on very hard. It makes sense if it's a series you've played before, or maybe like a first-person shooter, because a lot of them play very, very similarly. But yeah, you just mentioned then that you switched it up halfway. Some games you don't have, you like locked in, aren't you? Like you pick easy, normal, hard, and that's you. So it's quite a weighty decision. So taking that out of the game, I guess, really helps people see how easy or hard the game is straight away, but it is quite limiting. I think that when it comes to this argument about, well, Dark Souls, you're going to see it on the internet this week, basically, that all games aren't for all people, and if you're not good enough and you can't handle Dark Souls, then you can't enjoy what the game is. Do you think that there's ways around that without it having a difficulty setting, like maybe like a warning on the front page? I know the comment section is going to love that.
Warning: you might be a nub. Too nub for this game.
Well, I don't even think get good makes sense. I think it's a game that you can beat with knowledge if you know what to do.
Wow,
it's
that's
not
quite powerful.
It's not. Well, I'm a powerful guy. It's not a game about skill so much as it is. And it absolutely is and can be if you're going into it completely blind. Mm-hmm. But if you're up against the wall, it's a game about knowing what you're doing, and that isn't so much skill as just gathering knowledge and being patient and learning the game. I mean, get goodism is just stupid, really, isn't it? But and as for putting a warning to say, oh, be careful because this game is hard, you're asking to be beaten. You're asking to be beaten and overcome easily. For example, Cuphead, right? And I remember this conversation online when Cuphead came out.
Yeah.
Because the reviews were saying Cuphead is rock hard.
Yep.
And then what you got was people going, oh, no, it's not. I beat it in like a few hours or whatever.
Right.
And they just, because they take that as challenge accepted, I'm going to destroy this game. So putting a warning saying, warning, this is a tough game, is just asking for...
Do you think it's being an old school gamer as myself? I remember games being solid, right?
Right.
Games would destroy you. You'd have to go to bed crying at night and wake up in the morning, and then it'd twig. That's how you beat the boss, and then you go to it again, and then you try it again after numerous times of trying. You might be stuck on a part of a game for days or whatever. Then you'd get past the part and then you'd progress and whatever. Games, that's to me what games used to be like, what they are, right?
The thing is
are games these days too easy? Is that a legitimate question?
I don't think they are, because I think that you can have difficult games if you want them to, if you want it to be difficult, and when they are too easy, and overwhelmingly the conversation is this game is too easy, like Total War Thrones of Britannia just happened.
Okay.
Then the developers will go, well, okay, this is too easy. You're right. There's no challenge in the mid to late game. There is no mid to late game. We'll just put an update out, change some stats, tweak some things. Boom! Before you know it, difficult game again. So I think.
Do you think that applies to other types of games, though? Maybe ones without difficulty settings? I was wondering this. This is actually going to be my next question, really, about Ni no Kuni 2 came out quite recently, and it had quite favourable reviews, right? One thing it seemed to be universally agreed upon was it was very, very easy, and it was accused of hand-holding or dumbing down, because obviously an easy game is a dumb game in the opinion of many on the internet. How easy is that to go in and fix, though? You just saying and going in and patching. Is it a case of just like toggling enemy difficulties? Because it's something that I don't see many game developers doing, especially ones without a difficulty setting already implemented. Do you think that they should add a mode in or whatever?
Again, it depends on the type of game, doesn't it? But if you look at something like Destiny, then for example, that is a long conversation that people have, because difficulty is part of the end game, and if the game becomes, if there are too few easy challenges in the end game, there's no point playing the game anymore. So you need to have a challenge or a goal or something that's pretty difficult to conquer, like a raid or something like that. So you end up having this long conversation over like the whole lifespan of the game, from the players saying, you need to give us more, you need to give us more challenge, you need to give us PvP that's like just more difficult and more elite and more like, you know, more cutthroat and stuff. And then, so it becomes part of the conversation of the game. But then something like Ni no Kuni is a single player game, so it's different, and they've made this entire JRPG. You know, once you start tweaking things, you don't know what the knock-on effects are going to be when you start balance changing and stuff. So it's probably a lot harder in that compared to Destiny, which you can continually. It's designed like a spreadsheet. You can just change some numbers, see how that works, put the patch out, get feedback, change it again the following week to see how it works. Do you know what I mean?
Feedback, ignore it.
We hear you.
How closely related do you two think? And I'll open us up to the comment section, of course. Challenges to enjoyment. Like, would you be able to enjoy a game if you felt it was too easy and you romped through it, or do you need there to be like bits where you will fail a couple of times to get through it? Do you know what I mean? Because some people, that kills their momentum, and I can see why some people might like a game that's too easy. And there's other people that like games like Dark Souls where they want to die, they want to learn that. It's like almost trial and error. Like they have to die a few times to go, and to have that like eureka moment. Do you think that's closely related? Challenge and enjoyment?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, games can be enjoyable on their own merit, and they can just be easy. Like Far Cry 5 is a game that is pretty easy, right? But it's enjoyable the whole way through, and my enjoyment isn't tied to the difficulty. However, there is definitely an extra reward that comes with a challenge, right? Like I said earlier with God of War, I'm enjoying it a lot more on the harder mode because I know that this is hard, right? And beating it is an achievement in itself. Yeah. So there is definitely achievement and enjoyment tied to difficulty, but I don't think it necessarily has to be.
When people ask like, how do you define what a game is, because of like walking simulators and indie games and stuff, and people say, oh, it's not even a game. How do you define what a game is? A lot of the answer commonly is it needs to have a fail state. So you need to be able to die, fail a puzzle, take the wrong turn, and just, you know, hit your story end here. Any kind of wrong decision or fail state. But I don't know if that is even valid, because of the way indie games push things in terms of how, because it's not even remotely challenging to play a lot of the greatest indie games. You just push forward through it, experience the story, speak to people, and do light, very light puzzles that at no point will make you stop and open up your phone to have a look on Google what the solution is. But then the flip side to that is, and also I reckon as well, if you had a game like God of War, as a big budget AAA game like that, you've got to make sure your players can progress through the game properly and at a reasonable pace. Because if it's like a 16-hour game and they sit down like, right, I don't play games that often, but I've heard a lot about this God of War, so I'm going to play it. They sit down and start playing it, and then it starts kicking their ass. They're not going to get through the game. Whereas I played almost all of it in like about 4 days because the difficulty was just challenging enough to be really engaging and enjoyable. I played it on normal and enjoyable, but it didn't feel too easy. I didn't feel like I was getting guided through this game, like I was getting handheld through it or anything. And I was able to just power through the story, explore a lot of the game or what it had to offer. So that's about balance and stuff. And like you've done, you can have that like tighter combat experience if you want, which is why the difficulty options are important, because you can have that if you want. Like,
my personal opinion is it's almost pro-consumer to have difficulty options, right? Like, it's all well and good, like Bloodborne being what it is, and it's great because it's challenging. But it's for people like my dear old mother. This is a true story. Bought Bloodborne and can't get past Father Gascoigne, right?
Yeah.
And that's money wasted for her. Now that's not a huge deal because she's an adult and she can afford more games. But if you went to, let's say, a curry house and the curries didn't have that little spicy indicator, and you bought a Vindaloo by mistake, and you didn't know anything about curries, it's not like a bunch of 15-year-olds are going to come into the curry house and go, get good, you can't handle spicy.
God, I hate that curry house.
What it is that the restaurant or any other sort of thing has almost a responsibility to put a little chili sign there to say, hey, mate, this is a bit hot. And that's what I was on about those labels earlier. There's if you've only got a certain budget and you accidentally blow your money on a game that is way hard and you're like quite casual, you only buy maybe 2 or 3 games a year, you're fucked.
Do you use chilies? What's the symbol though? That's
that's
skulls.
Skulls. This is a 5-skull game.
In the very specific case of Bloodborne and Dark Souls games, I reckon the magic of those, the reason that people like me keep banging on about them, is because not because it is hard, not because that's a simple fact, but because the difficulty makes you, it adds that horror element, keeps you where you are for longer.
Yeah.
You end up retreading ground, seeing things, noticing changes, noticing little differences in the world, picking up notes, taking your time. You might be stuck on a boss on ages and end up going through your items, seeing what you got, reading the descriptions and picking up bits of lore from the item descriptions that you never would have looked at if you just killed that boss and moved on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So part of the fact that you're dwelling and stuck and stuff like that at certain points in those games is really important. And I reckon if you put an easy mode on Bloodborne, it just wouldn't be anywhere near as special of a game. It just wouldn't work as well.
Something that Gareth just said a minute ago was he played God of War on normal, and then he kind of realised that I could probably do this a notch up. And Bloodborne, you were just saying then, you do face a challenge, but eventually you get there. I'm going to just give you a little fact about Resident Evil 4 horror game, and you tell me what you think of this, because this is something that not many people, it's not common knowledge, but quite a lot of people understand what this is. Resident Evil 4 has got a hidden scalable difficulty slider in the game. It wasn't the first game to do it, but I think it's one of the best examples of it, where the worse you play the game, the easier the game becomes. You'll restart at a checkpoint, all of a sudden you'll have more ammo, or there'll be one less enemy spawning. It's a bit more organic. You don't have to be going into menus. You don't have to pick this at the beginning, easy, normal or hard, when you haven't even played the game yet. And you don't have to take that sort of dignity away from yourself, like in games like Metal Gear Solid 5, where if you want easy mode, you have to put a chicken hat on. You're basic, and there's like Wolfenstein 2, where you actually, the guy looks like a baby. He has a nappy on and a dummy. Do you think that could be one solution to these problems? If all games had that sort of thing in, it would be a little bit more customizable to everybody's experience, right? Do you think that's a potential way of stopping these sort of arguments on the internet?
I think it's a really intelligent way of doing it, and it obviously takes out the labeling people dunces or get good or whatever. It definitely does that. I've been playing State of Decay 2 recently, and the main difficulty of that game at the very beginning is learning the mechanics of the game, learning how the systems work together, and getting familiar with everything with the game. And as soon as you've learned all that, I felt like the difficulty level was just lowered steeply for me. I felt like it got really easy. There was abundant of resources. The zombies were easier and easier to kill the more ammo that I got, and I felt like that was a game that could really do with what you're talking about there. A slider like in the background, making things a little bit harder, just to challenge me a little bit more, because I don't feel like I'm getting the reward of a challenging game from it right now, because I feel like it's kind of a little bit too easy. And there is no difficulty setting on State of Decay 2, which I am looking for right now, because like I said, I'm finding it easy. But something like that would be ideal.
I think with the one thing we didn't mention a minute ago is if a game's too easy or hard. I guess if a game's too hard, you've got something to work towards. But if a game's too easy, you're already above the expected limit.
Yeah.
So
it just definitely wouldn't work with certain games like Bloodborne and Dark Souls, even having that AI troll thing, because if you were struggling, rather than continue to struggle, be stuck in the area, and all the things I was talking about earlier, the game would just dial it down a little bit for you. You would eventually overcome it. So it varies game for game. I think one tiny addition that needs to be on every game, I think, though, is if you have got difficulty settings, for the developer to put a little note on the one that they say that's the preferred one.
The recommended
just say this
one,
is the best one. Because I reckon with like The Witcher, for example, a lot of people say that like Deathmarch match or one of the harder difficulties is how you get the most out of that game, because you've got to prepare for the battles, put oils on your swords and whatever, and get ready for it, which you don't have to do at all on normal a lot of the time. So that would be, a little note there saying, genuinely, if you play the game on whatever you want, but we recommend you play this one.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. Obviously, it does depend game for game, and it depends person to person. That's why I thought I'd bring you guys in, and it's a discussion that no matter where you are on the internet, I bet you this week you'll see some sort of argument online about games, game journalists, games being too easy these days, games being too hard. But I don't know. There's no shame below in the comment section. Why don't you let us know what difficulty you play on and why? That's the important thing, really. Remember to like it if you enjoyed it. The video, that is. Subscribe if you're new around here. Thanks very much, guys and Mike, for joining me. There's more content on the screen right now, and there's also a link to our Patreon if you want to support the channel. We will see you next time.
Bye.
And the unkindled will